I'm Kevin IRL, and I just painted my nails PJ Masks colors. It looked like crap because these colors are hideous, so I put black over it, and now it looks a lot better. Today, I wanted to talk about how messed up the so-called morals of PJ Masks are. It's something that has bothered me for a long time, and I just really wanted to get it off my chest and see if anyone else had the same experience as I did, cause, whew boy, there's a lot to unpack here. In the beginning of PJ Masks, the plot of every episode included an explicit moral like most children's shows do. Every story arc followed the basic pattern of character has flaw keeps them from defeating the villain, and character must resolve said flaw in order to win. This is a pretty standard and formulaic way of storytelling, and was pretty much the norm for season 1. As the show progressed, however, this format started to die out. The show started to focus more on plot and less on morals, but every once in a while, the show would go back to its roots and try to shove a half-assed moral somewhere in the last 2 minutes. Although the intentions of this format were good, the execution left a lot to be desired. By that I mean that the morals of every episode were either hit or miss or just downright wrong. The more I pay attention to the show, the more I'm starting to think, I don't think PJ Masks knows what morals are. In the beginning of the show, episode plots usually revolve around conflicts that kids actually deal with, like Blame It on the Train, where Owlette learns patience, or Catboy and the Pogo Dozer, where Catboy learns to take turns. These episodes are pretty standard kids show stuff, and I don't really have a problem with them, but eventually the plots start to get weird. I first want to address the most infamous moral: getting angry is bad. There are way more than a few episodes featuring this plot, and every time I see one of these episodes, my blood boils. In Catboy and Master Fang's sword, Catboy gets mad that Night Ninja stole Master Fang's sword. Owlette and Gecko try to calm him down, but he gets angrier and angrier. Finally, he calms down and they put together a plan, but the moral is don't get mad. Some of these lines genuinely make my skin crawl.
Sorry, Connor. Don't get angry. Master Fang never ever gets angry. Stay cool like Master Fang.
He never gets angry. You haven't quite got that move yet. But don't be mad.
Yeah, no need to get angry when you mess up, right?
Yikes. I hope I don't have to explain why this is a bad thing to teach children. Although I'm sure keep a cool head was the actual lesson being taught, the execution of this episode was genuinely garbage. And it's not the last time this happens, either. In Armadillon Zen, Armadillon openly shares his struggles with anger issues, and Catboy offers to help him relax on Mystery Mountain. Catboy of all people. Ironic, I know. Of course, Owlette doesn't believe he can do it, and sure enough, Armadillon crashes out when Night Ninja attacks him. Catboy basically tells him to calm down, and he does. This episode isn't as bad as the previous one I mentioned because it explores ways to deal with anger like meditation and taking deep breaths, but the message is still strong and clear. Anger isn't a valid emotion for any reason and should be done away with immediately. The next episode is even worse. In Pharaoh's Mountain, Anyu panics after Pharaoh Boy invades Mystery Mountain and steals her staff. Once again, Catboy tells Anyu to calm down, and she does. Simple as that. Obviously, the attempted moral here was that it's easier to think with a clear head, but this was lost on me due to the fact that she literally panicked for a valid reason, and Catboy told her to calm down. Like, what? He freaks out all the time. One of the most recent episodes featuring the don't get mad moral is the Sun Factory. Owlette tags along on a mission with Bastet to keep her temper in check, but this pisses me off because Bastet being pissy is low-key a character trait and not really a flaw. I wouldn't say she has anger issues, nor that it clouds her judgment, she just has a fiery personality. As for Owlette, she has no right to be telling people to calm down. She's literally the pissiest character ever. Owlette spent a whole episode holding a grudge against Catboy for scaring her in the museum, which is probably the only episode where Don't Get Mad came through loud and clear. Well, I guess it was more don't hold a grudge, but the point still stands. She cannot speak on this, and neither can Catboy! I need to calm down. I'm an adult, I need to calm down. Fortunately, in some episodes they changed their approach to this topic. In PJ Robot vs. Romeo, PJ Robot crashes out because Romeo is attacking him. The PJ Masks try to explain that acting while he's angry escalates the situation, and in the end drop this banger of a line that genuinely had me gagged.
It's okay. We get it. We all get mad sometimes.
It's how you work it out that matters.
Ugh, it's such a good line. In the end of Teeny Weeny to the Rescue, Catboy repeats a similar sentiment when he says,
It's okay to feel angry. but taking it out on others just makes things way worse.
These two scenes made me want to get on my feet and applaud, because I feel like this is the kind of thing they were going for all along but failed to execute. The reason that most of the episodes surrounding the subject of anger don't work is that teaching children that their emotions are invalid or even bad is inaccurate and harmful. Emotions are just emotions, and like Catboy said, it's okay to feel angry. It's what you do with the emotion that matters, and I wish the show had successfully conveyed this in the beginning. Unfortunately, don't get mad is not the only problematic moral that the show introduces. There are several episodes like Slowpoke Gecko or Gecko and the Snorosaurus where, I kid you not, Gecko gets distracted because for one, he's a child and probably neurodivergent, and this is portrayed as a character flaw, which really rubs me the wrong way for obvious reasons. Romeo's Melody is another example of this type of thing where Catboy's whole character flaw is that his itchy helmet is bothering him. Like, hello? Am I the only one who thinks this is weird? Come to think of it, a lot of these episodes have a moral that's just kind of like suck it up with no further explanation. Catboy's Clouded Crisis and Speak Up Gecko, for instance, try to say face your fears, but instead kind of say get over it. A lot of these morals just don't work. The moral in Catboy and the Teeny Weeny Ninjalino is always help when someone's in trouble, but they open the episode with a scene where Connor is clearly busy and can't help Cameron at the moment. Speaking of helping people, there are several episodes like Flying Factory Out of Control where the message is to trust characters that have regularly proved themselves time and time again to be completely untrustworthy. Aside from the obviously iffy morals, there are also some morals that are just plain weird. Gecko's Stay-at-Home Sneezes says, stay home when you're sick. Super Cat Speed says, you're good enough as you are. In Bubbles of Badness, Gecko has a reasonable crash out over Octobella trying to ruin his life, but then has to work together with her so they don't all die in space. The message here is that sometimes you have to work with people you hate, which is true, but like, why is it the message of an entire episode? Gecko Saves Christmas, my favorite episode mentioned, says you never know if you're good at something unless you try. The context being that he is trying to fly the hoverboard that he stole from Luna! One of the most bizarre ones I took note of recently was Catboy and the Two-Wheeled Wonder, where the PJ Masks get their vehicles stolen by Romeo and ride bikes instead.
I love my Gecko-mobile.
Our bikes are pretty cool too, though. They might not do everything our vehicles can, but they really helped us get them back.
Huh? I'm not even gonna try to figure out what the moral was supposed to be there. Not all of the morals in PJ Masks are bad, though. Some of them are actually awesome, in my opinion. And Owlette's two wrongs. Owlette destroys Night Ninja's statue in revenge for the way he destroyed her sculpture, and feels sorry about it when she sees how upset he is. The clear message of two wrongs don't make a right is expertly portrayed here, as getting revenge doesn't actually make her feel better. In Gecko the Croc, Feral Boy blackmails Gecko into doing his dirty work until Newton Star steps in and tells Gecko that asking someone for help is one of the bravest things a hero can do. This episode caught me off guard at first, but it is an excellent message for kids who may be put in dangerous situations, and I think it was executed perfectly. There's a lot of other episodes with good and bad morals, but I don't think I could touch on all of them because there are 6 seasons. So these are just some of the ones that stand out in my mind. Aside from the awful morals in each episode, PJ Masks doesn't really seem to have a grasp on the concept of morality as a whole. The criteria for what makes someone a hero or a villain is inconsistent and oftentimes just downright confusing. This is made even worse by the fact that the self-proclaimed heroes of the show are often in the wrong and usually seem to be part of the problem. The show starts out with 3 main villains, as we all know, showing them to be self-proclaimed bad guys and carry out evil plans. It's all very cartoonish and understandable until they start portraying Luna as something other than a villain. An anti-villain. Luna is unlike typical villains in the fact that she quite regularly teams up with the PJ Masks and helps them to defeat other villains. She has been shown to be rather kind when she wants to be and has non-malicious hobbies when she's not wreaking havoc. Despite fighting with Matsuki, she cares about her sister and worries about her well-being. Luna has been shown to be sentimental and at times open to having friends. Her disagreeable personality and stubbornness to be a villain are the only things in the way of her having a full redemption arc.
For a PJ Pest, you're actually alright, Owlette. You too, Luna girl. When you're not so busy being a villain. I wouldn't get too used to that if I were you.
Anti-villains were not the only character archetype that the show explored. In season 2, the show introduced Armadillon, a canon anti-hero. What started out as a great idea quickly turned into chaos as the writers completely lost the plot and had no idea what to do with him. Armadillon has powers and wants to be a hero but doesn't quite know how to go about it. He's dead set on doing his own thing and often teams up with villains due to not knowing better. He wants to do the right thing, but he has anger issues and doesn't know how to work with other people. Instead of fully exploring this concept, the show gives up at the end of season 4 and sidelines him for nearly 2 seasons. When he returns at the end of season 6, the show describes his absence as him figuring out his powers due to clumsiness. Although Armadillon's original goal was to join the PJ Masks, when he finally gets an invitation, he declines and opts to work alone instead, showing that he learned something in his absence and staying true to his character. It's a shame that Armadillon's character was handled in this way, but I think his comeback was handled well, all things considered. Alongside the show exploring the concept of anti-villains and anti-heroes, they also introduced several neutral antagonists. The Wolfie kids are not really villains, as all they really do is cause chaos, but they're sometimes labeled as villains by the PJ Masks due to their destructive nature. Monkey Goo causes trouble, but just wants to have fun. Orticia is a young plant girl who wants to grow plants and protect them from the PJ Masks. Pirate Robot wants to be a pirate and go on adventures. All of these characters fill the antagonist role due to providing a conflict that the main characters have to solve, but none of them are villains per se. The PJ Masks, however, treat them like villains despite their usually non-malicious nature, and the same goes for anti-heroes like Armadillon. Later in the show, the PJ Masks actually mislabel some characters upon first meeting them, for example assuming Octobella is a hero and Bastet is a villain. Bastet in turn labels Armadillon as a villain upon first meeting him. You'd think this would highlight the fact that the PJ Masks are not always in the right, but sadly their mistakes are completely glossed over instead of being portrayed as a learning opportunity or character flaw.
Hello? New villain!
In an episode called The Good Wolfie, they establish that Kevin is, well, a good guy in their eyes, and then they're suddenly fine with him messing around with his friends, leaving us to wonder, how exactly do the PJ Masks define a good guy? And what makes them heroes anyway?
You do have good in you!
I have always had a problem with the way the PJ Masks are portrayed as heroes. I know I'm not the first person to point this out, but the PJ Masks are judgmental, snarky little mean girls whose main goal seems to be keeping the status quo. The main thing that irks me is the way the show portrays everything they do as right, even when it's really not. I'm not referring to the flaws they overcome every episode, I'm referring to the resolutions where they mock the villains they defeat and bully kids like Armadillon scot-free. They're often quick to label other kids as either heroes or villains, and like I said earlier, are often just entirely wrong. They flip-flop between giving villains a chance to do better and saying that the villains will always be villains, no matter what, even though they're like 7. Is their way or the highway no matter what, and even when they're in the wrong, it's rarely addressed. This makes the PJ Masks just very morally gray, which would be totally fine if they were portrayed as such. Instead, all of their questionable behavior is portrayed as totally fine and even right. Who put these little shits in power anyway? So, does PJ Masks have a healthy grasp on the concept of morality? No, probably not. From the mistreatment of anti-villains, anti-heroes, and neutral characters to the gross portrayal of so-called heroes, the morals of the show are iffy at best and completely confusing at the least. The show constantly brings up nuanced concepts and completely fails to execute them, which could be confusing to some kids. Now, there are 6 seasons of PJ Masks, so obviously I can't touch on every single episode, but trust me, there's a lot of weird ones. Not all of them are bad, obviously, but the bad ones are super weird, and I just needed to get that off my chest. What do you think? Are the morals of PJ Masks completely twisted, or am I just overthinking it? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all next time. Kevin out.